"I wish you were my son," he said, his voice low and begrudging, completely unaware of who I really was. His son, my actual brother, sat beside him and let out a mocking laugh, muttering something under his breath I couldn't quite catch. This was it, the moment I had long waited for. The moment I would confront both my past and my family. My pulse quickened, nerves and resolve flooding my chest all at once. They had no idea who I really was, but I was done hiding. I had spent years preparing for this day, building a life none of them ever imagined I was capable of, for them to unknowingly come to me when they needed help most. My name is Danielle. I'm 30 years old, a lawyer, a mother, a wife. These are the titles I've fought for and earned. But for those unfamiliar with my journey or who haven't seen the first video about my life, let me take you back so you can understand the full context and truly come along for this ride. Was born into a traditional household that held rigid expectations and allowed little room for deviation. Everything in my parents' world changed when my younger brother was born. He was everything they'd hoped for, a boy who could carry on the family name, the golden child who could do no wrong. And me. I was the unnecessary one. Just a girl with no place in their carefully mapped future. At only 6 years old, they made an unthinkable decision. They left me at an orphanage. They said it was for my own good that I'd have a better life. But deep down, I understood the truth. They didn't want me anymore. The orphanage was harsh, but it shaped me in ways I didn't realize at the time. I learned to fight for myself. I turned all my pain and rejection into something constructive. I buried myself in my studies, determined to prove I wasn't the failure they thought I was. That fire inside me, the drive, became my greatest asset. I thrived in school, earned scholarships, and graduated law school with honors. Becoming a lawyer wasn't just about a career, it was how I reclaimed power over my life. As my career took off, I did my best to leave my past behind. I married Mark, a kind and supportive man who grounded me. We had a daughter, a beautiful, spirited little girl who reminds me daily what real love looks like. She is everything to me, the heart of the life I built from scratch. But no matter how far I got, the shadow of my childhood remained. I could never shake the question, why did they leave me? Out of both curiosity and a quiet yearning for closure, I looked them up. To my surprise, they were thriving. So it seemed my parents and brother were living the very life they had denied me, their family business flourishing into an empire. The sting of that discovery stayed with me. When I reached out to the orphanage, they confirmed what I already suspected. They never came back for me. Not once. Years passed. Then life threw me their business began collapsing, and in desperation, they sought help from the firm where I worked. My boss, unaware of my past, assigned me the case. They didn't know who I was, and I didn't tell them. I didn't take the case for them, I took it for me. This was my chance to rise above the betrayal, to prove to myself that I had become more than what they left behind. And now, here I was, sitting across from the very people who once threw me away. They still had no clue who I really was, and I intended to keep it that way. At least for now. Who do you think you are, questioning me like that? My father snapped, his voice sharp and dismissive. He leaned back, locking his eyes on me like he was daring me to challenge him. I didn't look away. My expression stayed calm, though my heart pounded. "I'm the person you hired to fix this," I said evenly. "And if you want me to succeed, I need full transparency. That means honesty from everyone in this room." The air grew thick with tension. My brother scoffed from across the table, shaking his head. "So now we're supposed to spill everything to someone who doesn't even know how to run a business like this?" My father sighed, rubbing his temples as if barely restraining his frustration. "This company doesn't need lectures, it needs results," he said sharply. "We've already wasted enough time." His words stung, but I didn't let it show. Emotional control had become second nature. "Then let me do my job," I replied. "That's the only way your company survives." My father narrowed his eyes but gestured for me to continue. I opened the folder in front of me, scanning the documents I had meticulously reviewed. "Let's start with the lawsuits," I began, keeping my tone professional. "You're currently facing multiple legal disputes, contract breaches, unpaid invoices, and serious allegations regarding unsafe working conditions." My brother rolled his eyes. "Those lawsuits are blown out of proportion. We've dealt with worse." I glanced up at him, unwavering. "Exaggerate or not, they're real and dangerous. The unpaid invoices alone have creditors lining up. And the unsafe conditions. One of those claims involves significant injuries. If that moves forward, it could destroy your reputation." My father shifted uncomfortably but said nothing. I pushed on. "Your contracts are another major issue. Many are so poorly written they're open to interpretation. In some cases, your team outright violated payment deadlines or missed deliverables. That's not just poor business, it's reckless. And what exactly do you think we should do?" My father asked, his voice still rough but more curious now. "We begin triage," I said. "First, we settle the most critical lawsuits out of Koritulhurt, but it's better than trial. Second, we audit and rewrite every vulnerable contract. Third, we establish strict compliance protocols." He looked thoughtful. My brother, less so. "That's a lot of money and effort," Benjamin muttered. "Damage control is all you have left," I replied bluntly. "But if we move fast, you'll stop the bleeding and buy time to rebuild." That evening, after putting our daughter to bed, I sat at the kitchen table, staring into a cup of tea. Mark sat across from me, concern in his eyes. "Tough day." Us. I nodded slowly. "It's more complicated than I imagined. They don't know who I am. Mark, my father, my brother, they have no clue the lawyer they hired is the daughter they abandoned." "You're not lying to them," Mark said softly. "You're doing the job they hired you for probably better than anyone else would." I just wonder, am I doing this to help them or to prove something to myself? Mark took my hand gently. "You've always stood for what's right within. When it's hard, that's who you are. And no matter how messy this gets, you won't lose yourself." His words comforted me, but the storm inside me wasn't gone. The next morning, I walked into the office with his words echoing in my mind. My father and brother arrived late again, bickering. Benjamin's smugness hadn't changed, and my father remained stern. I greeted them neutrally and outlined the meeting's agenda. Before we get into the details, I began flipping open a file. "We need to address your most pressing lawsuit." My father's face darkened. That case is baseless, he snapped. We've dealt with contractors like him before. With respect, I said, the evidence against you is strong. Emails, signed contracts, and missed payments all backing his claim. Benjamin rolled his eyes. So, you want us to just hand him a check? I'm recommending a settlement, I replied. Dragging this out will cost doubling your reputation, can't take another hit. My father sighed heavily. And what's that going to cost us? I slid a document across. This proposal minimizes the damage. It's not ideal, but it's your best option. Benjamin sneered. We shouldn't give them anything. They miss deadlines too. This isn't about fairness, it's about survival. I said, locking eyes with him. My father didn't argue. He looked thoughtful again. And the other lawsuits, he asked, two can be settled quickly, but the injury case that could explode. I recommend bringing in a mediator immediately. Benjamin scoffed. You make it sound like we're barely holding on, because you are, I replied flatly. If you don't act now, there'll be nothing left to save. That night, as I held my daughter, memories of the orphanage came rushing back. The cold, the loneliness, the unanswered cries. I had once clutched a blanket pretending it was my mother's arms, but she never came. She left, and now her name was brought up casually by the man who had also abandoned me. At the next meeting, my father's attitude had shifted. He listened, he nodded. Once, he even said, "That's a good strategy." And then, quietly, "You remind me of someone, my wife. She passed last year. She would have liked you." Those words gutted me. The woman who abandoned me was gone. I'd never get to ask why. That night, I told Mark. He said I reminded him of her. I whispered, and I didn't even know she died. Mark held my hand. You've built a beautiful life despite everything. You don't need their answers to find peace. And he was right. Weeks passed. The company stabilized. Lawsuits settled. Contracts even the staff seemed less tense. At the final meeting, my father stood when I entered. "I think we owe you thanks," he said. Benjamin scoffed, but I ignored him. "You're on the right track now, but stay there or this will happen again." My father nodded. "This company means everything to us." "Good," I replied. "Then my job is done." Benjamin leaned back smugly. Even a blind squirrel finds a nut sometimes. But my father cut him off sharply. "Enough, Benjamin." Then he looked at me and said the words that shattered everything. "I wish you were my son." I stood slowly, breath held tight in my chest. "I'm not your son," I said, voice trembling but firm. "You gave up the right to call me your daughter the day you left me." His face paled. Benjamin's smugness disappeared, confusion dawning. "You don't even recognize me," I said, looking between them. "They never told you, did they? About the sister they abandoned?" I straightened. "I saved your company? Not for you, but for me. To prove that I could be more than what you left behind." My father tried to speak, but I held up a hand. "We're done. Whatever connection may have existed, it's gone." I turned to Benjamin. "I don't blame you. You didn't know, but now you do. I hope you use this to be better. Just don't expect me to stick around." I finally looked at my father one last time. You taught me something valuable who I never want to become." Then I walked out. Later that night, my daughter nestled in my arms. Mark handed me hot chocolate. The warmth of my family surrounded me, in stark contrast to the coldness I had left behind. "I'm proud of you," he whispered. I looked at our daughter and smiled. "I'm proud of me, too."